begin with a moment of silence for Mr. Adler. Thank you. Irene, if you, who is going to lead us in the invocation?
Kevin.
Oh, Kevin. Not this Kevin.
Bow your heads, please. Lord, as we gather today at this meeting, we ask that you will be in our midst. Help us to make decisions that will be pleasing to you. Help us to be able to discuss the matters at hand in a reasonable way and to be willing to give up having our own way. God, let this meeting be productive as we do the work set before us. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Join me in the Texas Pledge. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to these Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. Thank you. Roll call, Irene, please.
Yes, sir. Jerry Garcia, Chairman.
Yes, ma'am. Oh, thank you.
Luis Elizondo.
Present.
Leo Gonzalez is going to be absent. Armando Chapa.
Here.
Caitlin. Gabriela. Butch Poole.
Here.
Kevin Kishnick.
Here.
Ramiro Canales, Chief Appraiser.
Here.
Don Cossey, Assistant.
Here.
Melissa Vela, Attorney. Tom Wheat, General Counsel.
Here.
Terry Noack, TLO. We have a quorum, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Okay.
She
All right. Public comment, Irene, do we have anyone signed in?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. It's Robin Brenna.
Okay. Hold on, Mr. Brennan, hold on just 1 second, please. Next item on the agenda is the discussion or action on the consent agenda. If anyone wants to break out any of these items, please let me know, and if not, I'll accept the motion to accept them as written.
Motion to accept is written.
Second.
Motion made by Kevin Kieschnick to accept the minutes, or rather the agenda as written, seconded by L.A. Elizondo. All in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Let the record show it passes unanimously. Discussion on the 2023 proposed budget.
Elias.
Or before we go there, Elias, pardon me for interrupting you, but before we go there, should we go ahead and go with Mr. Brennan now, Tom?
Yes. Let's get it done.
Yeah, I think.
Robin, are you ready to?
Probably a good idea to go ahead and get him out of the way.
Yeah, because I know that this is about $20 an hour. So go ahead, Robin.
And let me know if we need to go on executive session.
I think we do, because he's got that.
We probably will need to go into executive session. I mean, I would assume at some point. In fact, probably before I give my report,
All right.
unless
Okay.
there's something you'd like publicly
All right,
discussed about
thank
the
you,
status
Robin.
of
Let the
this.
record show that we are now going into executive session pursuant to the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code 551.071, in conference with Mr. Brennan. Thank you, folks, and thank you for your patience. session.
Jerry, do we want to pick these up?
I'm sorry.
Do we want to pick these up?
Yes,
Yes.
yeah, we'll pick them up. Just put them up to the side, Butch.
There's some other closed session business, so hang on to them, and then when we go back to the closed session the second time, we can get it after that.
There you go.
Press, don't press me.
Okay. Let the record show that in executive session, we went into item number 2 in a meeting with our attorney, and now we will go back to the public meeting on the budget. Anything else? So let's go ahead and go with you, Elias.
Okay, so if you could close the board meeting and open the public hearing.
I did close the board.
Okay,
Yeah.
open the public hearing. And there's no one signed up, it's just for the public or for the entities, if they wanted to show up.
Right.
But we have to officially hold it, so we could begin it at 9:24, and then there being no public comment, we can close it at 9:24.
Okay, well, let the record show the public comment section was open at 9:24 a.m. And since there was no public comment, it closed at 9:24 a.m. Thank you, Elias.
Sure.
Open meeting regular.
Now let's go ahead and go back to the open meeting on the budget. Hold on just a second. Item number 7 on the 23 proposed budget. Elias?
It was just a discussion I had placed on the regular board agenda in case anything happened, because I know one year we had a bunch of people show up, it was entities. So we had them speak during the hearing, and then they all left, and then the board conferred on what they had to say in this agenda item. Because there's no public comment, we're doing nothing.
We're good to go.
Oh, sorry, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, so because there's no public comment, I guess there's nothing to discuss.
Okay. All right. So, do we need a motion on, okay.
No.
Item number 8, discussion or action related to the approval of the 2021 financial audit, which is this booklet in front of you all.
David,
Yes, sir.
David Morales.
You're on now, Mr. Morales.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Good morning, everyone. I think you guys were provided 2 versions of the report. You were provided an electronic copy of it earlier in your package, and today you're provided a paper copy, and we're going to go over the paper copy because that's where I have all my notes. So if you turn over in your paper copy to page 1, this is what the board has hired my firm to do, is to give an opinion on the financial statements for the Appraisal District as of the end of the year, which in your case is December 31st, 2021. So this report talks about the financial statements. It talks about management responsibility for the financials. Then it talks about the auditor's responsibility. Our responsibility as auditors are to audit the numbers. The numbers are provided to us by Elias. Our responsibility is to audit those and see if they conform to all the test procedures we performed. And then below on that bottom paragraph, it talks about what an audit entails, et cetera, et cetera. So on page 2, the top 1/3 of the page, we give our professional opinion. It states, in our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the respective financial position in the Nueces County Appraisal District as of December 31st, 2021. That's an unmodified opinion. There was nothing during our procedures or any of our audit testing that would cause us to modify the opinion. Okay?
Elias, you survive again.
Yes, he does. He does a good job. I mean,
Even though
I shouldn't say this because this is a public hearing or a public record. He does a really, really good job.
Mr. Morales,
You guys.
That's enough.
Okay, are we done? Okay. Yeah. Otherwise,
Talk
otherwise.
about his pay decrease later on.
That's
It's
right.
gonna be on his
No,
next
he
salary
really-
increase.
you know.
Come on.
We do a lot of engagements, and actually, I've worked with him on a number of different clients over the years, more than he probably wanted to admit
Even
to.
though he really would have impressed me had he managed to send this not on his 4th try on emails, but anyway, you did a great job.
So the IT is a little bit he needs to work on, is what you're saying. Okay, got it. All right, on page 3 is the management discussion analysis, and that's exactly what it is. It's management's opportunity to discuss some of the financial highlights, overview of the financial statements, give some ratio information, some comparative information. So again, it's management's discussion analysis. However, just to let you know, the numbers that are reported in the management discussion analysis are consistent with the audited financial statement numbers. So there's nothing that Elias is saying in the MD&A that is different than what we're saying in the audited financial statements. All right? Well then, on that note, let's go ahead and take a look at some of the numbers. If you turn over to page 12, this is the fund balance statements and the conversion to the statement of net position. We're going to go and concentrate on the far third column. This is the statement of net assets, and this is on a full accrual basis, which basically means your liabilities, your pension liabilities, your fixed assets, long-term debt, et cetera, are included in that third column. Whereas under the general fund, you have a modified accrual. It doesn't include those items. So look at a couple things. The first line item, you'll note there cash, $6.3 million as of the end of December 31st, 2021. Your capital assets, net of accumulated depreciation, $1.8 million, and that's detailed in the notes. We'll talk about that in a second. The liabilities, total liabilities, middle of the page, $1.3 million. And then you have some deferred inflows, $2.8 million. That has to do primarily with the pension plan. So then assets minus those liabilities and deferred outflows has to do with the net position of the overall district, of which $1.8 million is invested in capital infrastructure. Then you have restricted for medical payments of $197,000. And then the rest of it, $3.3 million, is unrestricted net position as of the end of the year.
Mr. Morales,
Yes, sir.
when I was reviewing this
Mhm.
earlier that Elias had sent this to
Uh-huh.
us, the pension liability is money that we already have. It's not cloud money, it's real money that's in this thing, right?
It's real economic value of what we owe the pension.
Right.
It's
And
a
over
liability.
time,
But
it-
we're showing it as a debit.
credit.
I mean,
Showing as credit.
rather, I'm sorry,
The-
yeah, we're showing it as.
But it's backwards
The
from
cash
banking.
portion, if you look on the first line cash, the $219,000,
Yes, sir?
that is the cash you maintain within that
Okay,
plan.
Okay.
So that's the asset side of it. But then on the other side, the flip side, the liability side, shows up as the pension liability. About the middle of the page, there's a line item called pension liability,
and
$615,000.
that's what caught my,
Yes, sir.
caught my eye, but an employee would not be shortchanged. Our employees are protected.
Absolutely.
Okay. all right.
Absolutely. And the way the plan works is you fund whatever is necessary
Right.
so that you don't run into that situation.
Okay,
That's correct.
thank you, sir.
Sure. All right, so that's the balance sheet side. If you turn over to the next page, page 13, these are the inflows of revenue and expenses that went out the district. So taxing unit was $8.8 million in revenue. Just as a perspective, and it's not presented here, but it's just to let you know, last year the overall taxing unit revenue was $8.4 million. So there was an increase to $8.8 million in the fiscal year 2021. Below that is your expenditures, mostly personnel cost, $5.4 million. And that is pretty consistent with what it was last year. It was 5.325 last year. Then you move down, you have professional services of $2,210,000. That's detailed on page 40, and we'll talk about that in a second. So take those revenues minus those expenditures of running the district. You have excess revenues over expenditures of $387,000. All right, the next page, page 14, just shows the internal service fund. Here we show that cash, $219,000. Then shows the ins and outs related to the internal service fund. Starting on page 17 are the notes to the financial statements. What the notes do is they give the reader a little bit more information about the district, such as the accounting policies, the difference between the government-wide and the fund financial statements, et cetera. As an example, if you turn over to page 28, in the middle of page 28, the footnotes disclose your capital assets and the form of those capital assets, such as the form of furniture and equipment, vehicles, building and improvements, et cetera. Shows what the balance was at the beginning of the year, what you added, retired, et cetera, to come up with the overall ending balances. So again, it just gives the reader some additional information about the infrastructure of the capital assets of the organization. The last thing I want to talk about, and it's all the way in the back, page 40, is to do with the overall schedule of expenditures. So what we do is we go ahead and report there on a functional basis, if you will, the overall supplies and operating expenses, shows them between office supplies, computer supplies, et cetera. in comparison to what it was last year. Similarly, on the professional services toward the bottom of the page, it talks about how much money was expended in the form of computer maintenance of $87,000 as opposed to $78,000 the previous year. So again, it just gives the reader some additional information on the overall expenses at a more detailed level or functional basis level. That's all I have as far as the presentation. If you have some specific questions related to the financials, I'll go ahead and take those at this time and try to answer those. And if not, I'll throw it to Elias and he can answer those questions.
Mr. Morales, you've been
Yes, sir.
very professional. Thank you so very much. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Morales? Anyone? Thank you so much for your time, sir.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Y'all take care.
Thank you, David. At this time, I'll take unless there's some discussion, I'll go ahead and take a motion to accept the 2021 financial audit.
So move.
Mr. Chapa makes a motion to accept it. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Second from Mr. Poole. Any discussion? All in favor, vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. Let the record show it passes unanimously. You can breathe easy now, Mr. Morales.
All right.
See you later, buddy.
Appreciate it. Take care.
All right, next item on the agenda is the discussion related to GASB 54, designation of funds. Elias?
Okay, part of that audit that whizzed by, we have a fund balance at the end of 2021 of $3,365,277. On tab 9 of your board packet, we last visited this in December, and we were working with estimates to designate or attach purposes to that money. And so we used estimates. This here is the real numbers following what we did in December. So what I'm asking you to do is to take a look at that, make sure that you're still okay with where those numbers ended up and what the designations are for them. And if you approve, if you want to change it, now's your chance. If you want to approve, you can change it any time. We'll just put it on the agenda in the future if you want. But if you'll just review those are the different designations of the money that's sitting in the bank at the end of the year. See if you're okay with it. It's in 3 different categories. There's non-spendable, which it's an accounting term for non-cash form. Those are prepaid expenses or accounts received, well, prepaid expenses in our case, $165,000. The committed category is what I call board money, and this staff cannot touch until we come to you. So building maintenance, $100,000 has been earmarked for that, for anything that comes up for building maintenance. Capital acquisitions or capital improvements, $630,000 has been accumulated for that. The litigation fund is its own little entity, and at the end of December of 2021, it had $1,107,000, and so that we keep it on a separate line item. It can only be used for litigation fund. And then there's cash flow operating reserve, and we've been slowly building that to try and accumulate about 3 months' worth of expenses in case for some reason we don't get revenues. That is sitting at December 31st, that's sitting at $1,167,000. So the total in the committed or board money category is $3,005,857. The assigned category is what I call chief appraiser money. This is money that you have given to the chief so that the chief can move on things when needed. We used to have, it used to be $109,000 earmarked to COVID-19 contingency. That's now gone. But the HVAC reserve, $100,000, that's in case something happens with the AC system, because it's pretty old now. And the health insurance reserve, that was leftover budget money for last year, and instead of putting it into the trust fund, I asked the board if we could put that in our, keep it in our own bank account, because Entrust won't know about it. It's in our money, and we can use it as we need to in case we have any overruns in the health fund. So chief appraiser money totals $193,970. So those 3 components are $3,365,000. What I wanted to do was show that there is no taxpayer money sitting in the bank account idle. It all has a purpose attached to it, because otherwise we have to give it back to the entities. So if y'all are all okay with that, then what we're asking you to do is to approve this. If you want to make changes, now is the time. And then execute this.
Does anyone have any questions for Elias?
Not me.
Does anyone have any questions for Elias?
May I ask, Elias, the 93,000 health insurance reserve, that's the self-funding that we do. What's our insurance limit when they kick in?
I think it was about $523,000. You're talking about the stop loss?
Yes, sir.
Okay, about 523,000, and it kind of moves around depending on enrollment, because
Okay.
people come, people go, and the enrollment keeps moving around. But
Thank you.
generally, it's that.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, sir. And it's important that we have all these monies accounted for, so we don't have to, send back money to the taxing entities. So that was a good job on those things, Elias. At this time, I'll go ahead and accept the motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the fund balance policy as submitted.
Let the record show Mr. Keeshnik makes that motion. A second, please. Caitlin seconds the motion. Any discussion? All in favor, vote aye. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Ellie.
Elias,
Yes.
on these committed funds here, if we were to run short on the litigation fund, can we transfer any of those funds to that or no?
You can, we can't.
That's why it's under the
Board can.
Just curious.
Is there any other questions for Elias? There's a motion on the floor. All in favor, vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Let the record show the motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Elias.
Sure.
Now, we're gonna go to the item number 10, discussion or action related to purchase of Microsoft 365 licenses.
He's hiding under the
Yeah, don't hide under your desktop, Red. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Neil.
Go ahead, Neil.
Well, we're just putting in there to get approval from you guys, since it's over $50,000, higher than the chief appraiser can authorize, for us to go with Microsoft 365, which will give us all of our licensing, and it comes along with a lot of other things that we will progressively move to a 100% cloud environment.
And will that get us there, Neil?
Yes, this is our first step. This gets our licensing put in place for all of our desktops and our Office products.
Right.
And from there, we will move into all of our files in the cloud. And so should this building implode, as Elias likes to tell me from time to time when he twists the screws.
Elias, don't look at Elias like that. I know he's as challenged as I am on computers and stuff. I'm the last of the Tyrannosaurus Rexes. You know what I'm saying, Elias? So I think you're a genius on this thing. So go ahead, Neil.
But what we're asking for is, there was already $125,000 set aside for laptops.
Yes, sir.
We wanted to get approval to take half of that and move those monies to this, use the remainder for the laptops. But this is primarily just for us using the 60,000, or I don't have the exact number, but it was about 62,000 to get the licensing in place, to get the
Okay,
infrastructure built.
So out of the funds that we're getting, I'm a little bit hazy, out of the funds that you're asking for, some of that is gonna go for the new laptops, is that
Correct.
correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
That's where it's coming from.
Any questions for Neil?
Quick statement, I've gone through this process and you've got a pretty good rate here. That's a pretty good deal.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so we're getting a bargain.
Good.
Yeah, I spent about 2 weeks calling all these vendors that
Yes, sir.
Microsoft supplies, getting pricing from dozens of people, and the one we picked was the best one. They'd put no overhead on it.
That's obvious.
Do you have any use for, Apple computer?
No.
LA's got some for sale, sounds like?
No.
He bought his Apple computer in 1968. They used to call it manzana. Go ahead, Ellie.
No, truthfully, we have a whole bunch, that we're gonna give away or donate or whatever, so. Just wondering if y'all had any use for them.
No, unfortunately, our appraisal software and all of our Office suites, everything, the mapping software, it's all based on Windows.
And they're not for sale, they're gonna be donated.
Right.
On the record.
This attorney's talking, so.
Well, one thing about that, LA, is we use Macs, but in the cloud, we're a Windows 10, so we use,
Yeah.
it's a very possible thing to do.
It's possible, but the thing is, it's our appraisal software, the core of everything that we do.
But that's
is
that's in the cloud.
No, our appraisal software is not in the
It's
cloud
actually
yet.
on the hard drive of the laptop.
No, there's a Windows-based client that
Right.
everybody has to run on their desktop
Right.
to access it, and they only make it for the Windows platform.
So the connection client is only window space.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Anything else for Neil? All right, do we need a motion for the purchases or the money designated?
Yes, please.
So moved.
Okay, LA makes that motion.
Second?
Butch seconds it. All in favor, vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. Let the record show it passes unanimously. Now, let's go on to item number 11. The discussion or possible action for third floor renovations.
We're still looking at, some people to come in and give us a different estimate as to what it's gonna cost. The first estimate that we got was pretty expensive. I think we shared that with you. So we're in the process of looking at some people. I think, they've already made contact, or Elias is making contact with
Not
them yet.
They haven't called you yet?
No, not yet. You want me to, can I cut in?
Yeah.
Okay. So, as I reported last time, we had our architect, the one that we typically use, CLK, come in and do an assessment of the third floor. And, okay, I'm an accountant, so, you know, I'm the brunt of a lot of jokes. Now I'm gonna make one. You know how architects are. They take a look at everything. All this crap has to be gutted and out and start all new. So he gave us some estimates. He had Barcom come in and try to put a schedule of values on this. I'm a little bit of a fish out of water on this, but I do know numbers. So far, the estimate to do the third floor was coming in anywhere between $711,000 and $868,000. And we feel like that's way overkill for a complete demo,
Yeah.
complete gutting of half the third floor. So we're looking for somebody who knows all these codes. The way I understand it, if you start ripping into this, all of a sudden all these codes get activated where you have to now do these other things like the HVAC redo and all this stuff. So what we're trying to do is find somebody to handle the project for us, like Ronnie was just saying. Someone who knows this stuff so that we can kind of minimize and not do extra work that we have to. When we're talking dollars this big and we're an appraisal district, we're not rich, we have to try and minimize that while still getting that third floor redone. So that's where it stands right now. So this is more of a status.
Did we put it together as an RFP then?
Once
I'm sorry, go ahead, Elias.
once we get that scope of work down, yes.
Okay.
We're trying to get that scope of work because this is clearly a lot. I mean,
You
it's
want
over-
somebody to give you the scope so you can write the RFP.
We were hoping
Right.
this would do it, but
And
overkill.
actually, I've asked a couple of friends of mine that I know can do this job. And I can do the job, but there's no way I would handle it because of a conflict of interest. But two of my friends that I think very highly of, I have given them Elias's contact information. They're busy, but they will they will contact Elias, and they'll look at the project separate and apart from each other. They're not partners, and see if we can get some different numbers. And at that point, we have something to base things on, because in judging from what I have seen, and you're more than welcome, all of y'all, I think Caitlin has gone up to the third floor with us already, but all of y'all are welcome to join us, and we can walk it again on the third floor and show you what Elias and I have seen, and Ronnie. There's a lot of things that Javier put down that we don't have to do, quite frankly. We don't disturb it. It doesn't have to get shuttered. So, in fact, I walked in on Carolyn's meeting with when she had with her people, and we looked at those things, and some of those things we do not have to do, in my opinion.
So instead of going to an architect, now you're just going to a general contractor to see what?
Yeah, what we want to do is get some ideas on what else, because I talked with Javier Huerta, that's the architect, great guy, you know, knows, but he just kept pushing toward, no, this all has to be taken out, everything has to be completely gutted and redone, and kept telling him, we want to minimize what we do. No, but if you want to do it right, oh, and by the way, if you do this, then you have to do that whole other section of it. I mean, it was getting ridiculous. He just kept going that direction. So we paid him $2,500 for his work, and he gave us a lot of good stuff, but we're going to use that now as a springboard to go and minimize it.
Any questions? Any questions for Elias? No? All right. Then we'll move on to item number 12. Do we still have to go into executive session, or?
Yes, sir.
Oh, yes, we do. I'm sorry. Okay. So at this time, we're gonna go ahead and go into item number 12, executive session. And if you would, please forgive the intrusion again, but this is in pursuant to the Texas Open Meetings Act, Government Code 551.071. number 13, discussion or action relative to items discussed in executive session. At this point, I'll turn it over to Mr. Elizondo.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we hire the outside counsel firm of Lowe, Sweeney, Evans, and James, more particularly Jim Evans, to represent the district in a bankruptcy adversary proceeding, style case number 22-03116, Tug Robert J. Bouchard Corporation versus Harris County.
That's the first motion made. Do I have an approval of the, or a second of the motion?
Second.
Mr. Poole seconds it. Any discussion? All in favor, vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Let the record show it passed unanimously. L.A.?
All right, Mr. Chairman, and I also make a motion that we accept the bill submitted by Brenna Bell and Walker, our legal counsel, dated June 22nd, 22. And I make a motion that we submit approve that bill.
Do I have a second on that motion?
Second.
Mr. Poole seconds it. Any discussion? All in favor, vote aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right.
I guess we got.
Any opposed? Let the record show it passes unanimously. Mr. Elizondo?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we, pursuant to our closed session discussion, that we approve the bill submitted by Mr. Tom Wheat for services dated March 11th and June 10th of this year.
Motion made by L.A. A second, please.
Second.
Butch seconds it. Any discussion? All in favor, vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Let the record show it passes unanimously. Thank you very much for your help. Thank you, LA, for your motions, and the board for your approval. Now, we're gonna go into item number 14, the Taxpayer Liaison Officer's Report. Ms. Noack?
Good morning, everyone. With your permission, I'm going to start with the easy part, which is the Appraisal Review Board section. The new auxiliaries, Israel Cantu and Javier Gonzalez, have finished their training. They've come and observed, and they are participating in hearings. So we have a good full board going there. They're doing very well. Applications for people who need to reapply for next year, who are coming to the end of their first or second term, they've all been given out, and I have received 5 applications back from those members. 4 of which are from auxiliaries who are interested in going to the full board. So that's good. Ms. Smith is coming to the end of her 3rd term, as is John Cook, so that's 2 openings that will be on the board. And Mr. White, so I have to amend this a little bit. Mr. White told me yesterday that he will not be applying for a 3rd term. He's got some health issues. He's 85 plus years old, so he's been told by his family that he needs to cut back a little bit, so we're the first cutback. So that will leave 12 openings, but again, I've already had 5 applications turned in for those 12 openings. And 4 of those auxiliaries have shown interest for coming to the regular board, and they are very good. Some of these, Carolyn already has at least one of them chairing, Lee Tiller. A lot of you have seen him in action if you've been watching hearings, and he does just a stand-up job. So kind of looking at him to maybe apply for chair, but that's another meeting. So I'm gonna get with Elias in early August, and we'll start working on advertising, because we're gonna need a lot of applications, so hopefully it won't take us as long this year as it did last year. Okay, so the not fun part is under complaints, and I included a copy of the complaint from Mr. Carrito. His hearings were held June 7th. He came to see me on June 21st, so he had thought about this for a long time. We talked for about 45 minutes, and he was pretty adamant about where he was headed with this. So he went on vacation, came back, brought that official complaint to me last Wednesday. I will tell you that I read it twice in front of him, and it's not exactly what we talked about when he came and spoke to me in person. And I told him, I said, this sounds more like you want to file an appeal as opposed to a complaint. And he said, no, ma'am. He said, this is totally separate. He said, I want to file a formal complaint against that ARB panel, in particular, Joe Teitelbaum. That is not stated in his complaint that he sent me, so, or that he brought to me. And again, I talked to him again, tried to get a resolution for this. What, you know, is there something that I can do, you know, to resolve this for you? And I said, I will, you know, speak to these gentlemen. I'll take it to the board of directors. And he said, no, he's filing the complaint. So again, the complaint isn't exactly written the way we talked on June 21st, but I filed it because that's what he asked me to do. So, and it says in the code that it comes to the board of directors, but the board of directors, I don't believe, has the authority to consequence this in any way. So I don't know what the resolution is. I don't know if it, maybe Tom can help with this. I don't know if it goes to the judge.
It should, I think it shouldn't go to the judge, since he is the appointee of the board members for the ARB.
I agree.
And the complaint is strictly on the ARB board member. And that's where it should be resolved. Now, the board could be apprised of what's happened as far as the complaint is concerned.
Right.
That way they have an idea as to what some of our ARB board members are doing. Doesn't happen every day, but this is the year where we've had a couple of those complaints against the ARB this year. Saying that too, I think, well, Letty's not here, but I think we're about maybe anywhere between 4,000 and 6,000 more accounts with people than we were last year. So the ARB board has been very, very busy, even to the point where we've expanded from 4 boards to 5. I think today, half a day, will be the last day for the 5th board. I wish we could extend it into Thursday and Friday, but again, we have other circumstances that prohibit us from having the 5th board. Saying that, we're very close to closing the books for this year.
Yes.
And staff is working very hard with it, and so is the ARB. Like I said, I just wish we would have 5th board for the next couple of days so that we can finish doing what we need to do. So we can certify on time.
Well, why can't we have that 5th board?
We don't have enough people to attend. We will be 1 short, maybe 2
One
at
or
most.
2, yeah, 1 or 2.
And that prohibits us from doing that. Even though, you know, I need to make clear that I'm not happy about that. I think that when a responsible person comes onto the ARB, he or she should know that there should not be any kind of absence other than maybe a serious illness, an illness of some kind, but if we need to take off time to go and do some other things, then I have a big problem with that, because our staff does not take vacation during that time of the year. I just wanted to make that very, very clear,
Okay.
that we're not happy about that. I hope it doesn't happen in the future.
So
Okay.
did we investigate this, and is there,
Yes.
I guess there's a recorded record?
And unfortunately, I did not record my conversation with Mr. Carrito. I did take notes.
But the hearing that he went to, it was recorded.
Oh, yes, there's 97 minutes.
Yes.
He had
So-
4 hearings, there's 97
So
minutes
this
of
is a
hearings.
justified complaint, you feel like?
Yes,
Complaint.
It's just a
And-
complaint, that's,
yeah,
Okay.
and it is justified, and, but again, it's not exactly what we talked about. He was more concerned with behavior and attitudes coming from one particular board member.
Okay.
And I will just throw a personal note in there. I was pretty angry at the way the hearing went and what was said to this gentleman, and so I don't blame him at all for filing the complaint. You know, if he's not happy with his determinations, then he has to file an appeal for that. But I don't blame him one bit for filing a complaint against the ARB panel, in particular, the chair of that panel.
Okay.
Now, Terry did a
So-
good job of making sure that she felt the complaint, and she followed it through by also watching the meeting, just to verify that what he was saying or she was saying was true. And, like I said, this is the year where we've had more than one complaint on
Yes.
ARB board member.
Yes.
And like I said, people here, have had a lot of work to do, period. They've been inundated with a lot of taxpayers, a lot more so than they've had in the last couple of years. And some of them are not holding back temper, and I'm talking about ARB members as well. So that created the bigger problem. So hopefully, we'll get better next year.
And if I may, just to help you, it sounds like from the way he's written his complaint, that he's made a formal record now of his complaint against that particular ARB member.
Right.
And that's something that we can take to the judge when reappointment time comes. And the judge will take that into consideration on the day, if this guy comes up for reappointment.
He does not. Next year is his last year.
Right.
He terms out next year.
And the other thing too, I think Terry and Carol brought it up to that member as well, that he needed to work
Yes.
on his attitude towards taxpayers
Okay.
in a roundabout way, because that part of the
Yes.
discussion that we had.
Yes, Carolyn and I did sit well, yes, that's true, many times, but this time in particular, he was rather defensive, would you say? And, didn't see an issue with his interaction with Mr. Carrito, and I flat out told him, you can't do that.
Terry, do we have a, or do you, or Carolyn, do you all have a general first meeting with ARB members and go into that kind of attitude situations? And that
Yes.
you're not the end all or be all of all of these things?
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
Carolyn does that, and traditionally, the chair has always held a workshop in early January, and all of these things are put forth, and, there are just certain lines that you don't cross.
Right.
And, this gentleman was adamant that he stood by what he did, and again, Carolyn and I said, but you can't do that. I mean, basically what he did was he told the gentleman he wasn't going to accept his evidence because he didn't follow Joe's directions to turn it in initially in the hearing, which they're asked to do. They're asked to provide their evidence. The district provides evidence to the property owner. But there are many times when the property owner holds back, just kind of, maybe I won't need this. They have the right to present evidence until they go into deliberation. And, like I said, I was extremely upset with the way this was handled by the chair of that panel. But it's not the first time he's
It
been
won't be the last.
spoken to. No, I'm afraid it probably won't be.
No. Okay, anything else, Terry?
Okay, so what would the board like me to do with this? Would you like me to take it over to the judge?
Yes.
Yes,
That's
Okay.
what I think.
I
All right.
think so. What do you all think, board?
I have a question. Can the judge remove a panel member?
Yes.
Yes.
Would they-
Yes.
Yes, he can.
Now,
So-
did you say there's been other issues with that same chairperson? Or-
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
Well,
can we send
and-
it over with a recommendation to remove, or do we wanna do
If you'd
that,
like-
or do we wanna go there?
I
I didn't hear you.
I said, can we send over with a recommendation to remove
Uh,
to the
well,
judge?
I
think
believe
that
you can.
Probably the best thing in this situation would be for the board to have, the board of directors, to have a hands-off approach. And I think this is gonna be a self-fulfilling prophecy as far as going to the judge with several complaints against this individual. And whomever the individual is, I have no idea who it is. So, unless the board deems otherwise.
How much longer does he have to serve?
A year?
1 year.
Oh, a whole year.
His term ends December of
Just
2023.
to get rid of him.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to put up with this crap next year if he's still
But
there.
it's up to you all. If y'all wanna send in a formal recommendation that we can this guy, or this woman, whomever, then we can do that. What do y'all wanna do?
Tom, that's within our ability to do, right? Is that we can make a recommendation?
What'll happen is the judge will receive the complaint, and then he'll talk to the TLO and/or us when we present it, and then he'll make the decision.
Okay.
Well,
It
then
really doesn't require an opinion from y'all, but you certainly can if you wish.
My
I think
biggest
we should.
concern is this section, if true, and of course you know this from the video,
Mm-hmm.
is the reference to the comptroller instructions to raise values. That should not even be a
Okay,
point of
I
consideration.
listened to all 97 minutes of those hearings at least once, and there were several parts that I listened to multiple times. I did not hear that.
Okay.
And some of the other things that Mr. Carrito mentioned, his perception of what was said and what really was said are a little bit different. But I believe he had every right to file a complaint against
We'll just
this
defer that
panel,
to the
just because of the way he was treated and things that were said to him.
I think we would just make a recommendation that the judge review this person and
I agree, because, you know, if these people get to the media, as it is, we're looked down as, you know,
Exactly.
we don't need any kind of negative publicity, so,
Well, we're not connected to ARB anyway, so.
I know.
people,
you know,
Yeah, but
people,
it's-
So I
people,
think
people
we-
think
I
that
think-
you're, they
I
think that
think-
you're
I
in
think-
charge of taxing them, so.
I know, and I agree that if we put a recommendation in there, that puts that association.
All right, so, go ahead.
So,
I have mentioned to Terry that we needed to look into the steps to remove that person as when that complaint was filed.
mhm.
And the part of that process would be that chairman would talk and they get together, turn that complaint over to the judge to have him or her removed. It's a reflection on the appraisal district as well as on the ARB, not the board members as well. Because you guys do not appoint people anymore to the ARB. The judge does. And he needs to be made aware as to some of the complaints that are filed. Like I said, this is the first year that we've had more than one complaint on ARB. But a lot of it, I think, has to do with the fact that these guys have been overloaded with work this year.
Sure.
And they've been, day before yesterday, they were here till 7:30.
Yeah.
Okay? And they were here early in the morning and they left late, trying to catch up with the stuff that we have to go back to. So, you know, it's an issue to where I think Terry already has, and she should know what to do already. Take it to the judge and just recommend to the judge that because of these complaints, we do not tolerate and it needs to be removed, period.
And this is the only formal complaint that's been filed against this gentleman, but I have had other ARB members, operators, appraisers, other people have come and said, hey, you know,
So how about how does the board feel about Butch and LA's recommendation that we send a letter of support to what you all wanna do?
Why don't we do that then?
I think it's, all right, well, we'll go ahead and go with that. Should we get it done by Tom or Melissa, Ronnie?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll get
Something real brief.
We'll get Tom or Melissa to
Okay.
do that. Tommy, if you don't mind, let's go ahead and do it as quickly as we can and get that letter to, or note, just a short one, just cut to the bottom line, to Terry, and let's just proceed forward on this thing then.
okay,
Okay?
I agree.
okay.
Anything else?
I don't think so.
Okay. Thank you
Anybody
very much.
questions or anything I can
Yes, sir.
clarify?
Don't we have to have a motion or second to concur with that? Don't we have to have some action?
Butch, make a motion,
If we need a motion, then,
why not?
I don't think we need a motion, Tom, do
Probably
we?
not an actionable item.
I don't think,
Just
you need
direct
a
it.
motion, because we have a formal complaint that will be forwarded to the judge, since he now is the guy that deals with all of the appointments.
We're
Right.
just giving directions on it.
Yeah, we're just passing it on, but it is part of our record, our public record is received. That's all I think we need to do with it.
Right.
We've been completely removed from the ARB appointment process.
Which is why I don't understand why, you know, not that I wouldn't have told you all anyway, but, you know, when I was talking to Ronnie, I was, well, that's what the code says, but you have no authority to, yeah, it's,
Probably needs to be addressed.
codes don't match.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Thank you, Terry.
You're welcome,
Appreciate it.
thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda.
Butch stirred the pot again.
Yes, that's just, I'm just amazed it's not Ronnie following me. So let's go ahead and next item on the agenda is the chief appraiser's report. Ronnie?
Right now, everything's pretty much caught up and done. All reappraisal notices have been sent out. Updates on the protests, like I said, we're about maybe close to 5,000 more accounts than we've had the previous year. We certified 20 $24,000, $25,000 last year. Don?
Yeah.
And this year, as of yesterday, I think we were at 27, almost 28,000 accounts that we've already gone through. And we still got the rest of the week to do what needs to get done. So we expect maybe pretty close to over 30 or pretty close to 30,000 accounts with people come through the office this year. But other than that, the staff has done a very good job of trying to help as much as we can and be as transparent as much as we can. But at the end of the day, we can only do so much, and the IRB does the rest. So, saying that, that's all I got to say. Any questions?
Any questions for Ron? Seeing none, do I hear a motion to adjourn? Elliot makes a motion, seconded by Caitlin. All in favor, vote aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Thank you, folks. Have a good day.
Need two motions.